There's Bucky's Slide Guitar Music that comes on every Monday through Friday. Music Network, Rumble, X, YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, type in IE Newswire on Rumble, Roy Bleckert, all that stuff. You see my nice, smiling, shining face. Lots of stuff to get to on that. Newsom gets his ass kicked out of Davos, the big World Economic Forum conference in Switzerland. Trump makes a deal, or a deal in principle, on Greenland after everybody said, oh, he's going to bomb the place and all that. Ha, ha, ha. Trump trumped you again. On top of that, a Moreno Valley councilwoman melts down about Erica Kirk's appearance today in Riverside. We'll have some film at that in a moment. Lead story of the day, Machete-Man. Madman launches into a local laundromat attack over a shirt? Over a shirt? Say it ain't so. It couldn't possibly be that. Here is the ABC 7 report.
My son was right here. He started yelling at my son to take his red jersey off, take his red shirt off, and kind of gave him a little bit of a pump fake. He's telling me to get my red hat off, same way he was telling my son, and he breaks the window. So luckily I was able to move out of the way of the machete coming through the glass, and after a little bit of back.
Well, that was a stroke of luck or quick thinking. Yeah, it's a good idea to move out of the way of a man wielding a machete, swinging it at or towards you and busting the window like that. Here's more of the report.
And forth, he went away. And so at the end of the day, I think the important thing for me was keeping everybody in the building safe, my customers and my son.
1,000%. Man, how'd you like to be in that situation with the Machete-Man? What's it with the Machete-Men coming up lately? How come these things run in packs or threes? I say the world always revolves around the number 3 because I'm a 3. Oh, boy. Man, what a deal. The whole Davos, Switzerland, that's where the World Economic Forum is, big resort. I mean, this is the elite of the elite. They gather there once a year, have their big conference. Trump gave a speech today. Good old gulag, Gavin Newsom, got his ass thrown out of the conference when he was trying to barge his way in, was invited. His talk was canceled after smart-ass remarks. Not only did he slam Trump's remarks after he made it, but before this, he's calling out all of the Davos, all of the head of the elites. It was very interesting. Maybe he was channeling his Alex Jones or whatever, but this is probably, Chris rocked at How to Not Get Your Ass Beat by the Police. This is how to get thrown out of the World Economic Forum and the Davos conference. Here's Gavin Newsom. Here's the first remarks he made.
Newsom, do you have a message for Europeans who are concerned about the messages from the White House around Greenland this week?
Yeah, it's time to buck up. It's time to get serious and stop being complicit. It's time to stand tall and firm, have a backbone. I've seen this in the United States, the supine Congress playing both sides, say one thing on a text or a tweet, another publicly.
Saying one thing on a text or tweet or doing the opposite. Scott Bessett's going to bring it up. What strikes me off the beginning is the French Laundry deal. You're going to kill your mom and dad or your kids or everything, go to that. If you go have dinner with them or anything, and he's at the French Laundry at $1,000 a plate dinner, yucking it up with the elites, with a lobbyist. What was the bar bill was $20,000, $20,000. And this is only for what? A dozen or so people. He's got a lot of, say nerve to say that. Here's hopefully we go with the rest of it.
Time to have principles. It's time to stand tall and strong.
Does that mean responding with
tariffs? Time to
tariffs?
stand united. You make that determination. I don't make that determination.
But when you say
Oh, he makes that determination all the time. He made the determination by what you just said. Oh, you stand strong. You know, he's such a two-faced lying piece of ass.
Standing still. What do you mean?
Just, I can't take this complicity. People rolling over. I should have brought a bunch of knee pads for all the world leaders.
Oh, how to get yourself thrown out of the Davos World Economic Forum, who you're trying to court all these rich guys to finance your presidential run in 2028 of the United States of America. Yeah, that's a good way to attract them. Tell them, yeah, you're all a bunch of knee padding blank suckers. You know, that's what we was calling them. Let's call it what it is.
I mean, handing out crowns and this is pathetic. Nobel Prizes that are being given away. I mean, it's just pathetic. And I hope people understand how pathetic they look on the world stage. I mean, at least from an American perspective, it's embarrassing.
So what should Europe be doing?
You should decide, the Europeans should decide for themselves what to do. But one thing they can't do is what they've been doing. And they've been playing. This guy is playing folks for fools.
He claims Trump has, he's been playing them for fools. This guy right here has lied. The highest gas prices, budget deficits for as long as we can see, despite record revenues coming in, expenses always outpace them. We should be getting a $11,000 per person tax refund in California if we followed the original Prop 4 rules. Education in the tank despite spending $27,000 per student K through 12, and the list goes on. And he's saying this? This guy may be the biggest narcissist psychopath we've seen yet.
And it's embarrassing.
Europeans think this is diplomacy and this will ultimately
this is
work.
diplomacy with Donald Trump? He's a T-Rex. You mate with him or he devours you.
You mate with Trump or he's devoured you. Hey, he screwed his best friend's wife while his best friend was his campaign manager. Now he's is he envious of Trump's sexual prowess or something? Holy cow, this guy is off the charts.
One or the other.
And Europe's being
people need to stand. No, the Europeans could be if they continue down this path and process. They need to stand tall, stand firm, stand
tall, stand firm. Holy mackerel. This guy is like... And I got to give him credit, man. He can sit there and say that stuff with the straightest of face that you've ever seen. It's almost unbelievable. You know, we ran this on the meme of the day here not too long ago. Idiot Noah built an ark when all he could have done is just paid more taxes to stop climate change. That's the philosophy of Gavin Newsom to a T. Scott Bessent was up on the take, and we'll get to Trump's comments in a minute, but Scott Bessent, our Treasury Secretary under the great Trump administration, roasted him even further. Gavin Newsom called him out in no uncertain way. You're Scott Bessent.
I think it's very, very ironic that Governor Newsom, who strikes me as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken.
That's one of the best descriptions I've heard of Gavin Newsom in a long time. Got to give Bessent, he was on.
Maybe the only Californian who knows less about economics than Kamala Harris.
That's got to be the biggest chop. The biggest chop anyone could. You're saying he knows less about economics or anything than Kamala Harris? Miss IQ with minus 111? Man. Scott Bessent was on it.
He's here this week with his billionaire sugar daddy, Alex Soros. And the Davos is a perfect place for a man who, when everyone else was on lockdown, when he was having people arrested for going to church, he was having $1,000 a night meals at the French Laundry, and I'm sure the California people won't forget that.
No, we won't. Well, we let him back in as governor. We didn't recall him. That's the fault of us in California. We've done this to ourselves. We've allowed Gavin Newsom to do the finishing touches of flushing the once golden state right down the toilet.
And I can tell my message to Governor Newsom is the Trump administration is coming to California. We are going to crack down on waste, fraud, and abuse.
Do it, Scott. Get it done. We want to see Scott, Donald Trump, we want to see investigations, indictments, incarceration, the 3 I's. Quit talking about it. I mean, do it. We want to see you rolling into California with investigators and lawyers and charges coming out the kazoo. If you think the Minnesota fraud is tiddlywinks. Gavin Newsom makes Tampon Timmy, the retard Waltz, look like a piker when it comes to fraud, waste, and abuse. We've been dealing with this far too long. Well, more from Scott Bessent, Gavin Newsom, and the great Donald Trump. Plus, we'll get to the meltdown of a Moreno Valley councilwoman who blistered Erica Kirk on her appearance today. Well, upcoming appearance in a little bit, about an hour, a couple hours, in Riverside, California, no less. Wow, that was a stunner last night at the council meeting. Have this and much, much more coming up. Stay tuned. Yes, getting more to the, let's get a couple things on Trump on the climate hoax thing. Here he is at the Donald J. on the climate. We'll get to some of the better stuff. Here's him on the climate hoax.
Because of my landslide election victory, the United States avoided the catastrophic energy collapse which befell every European nation that pursued the Green New Scam, perhaps the greatest hoax in history. The Green New Scam, windmills all over the place, destroy your land, destroy your land. Every time that goes around, you lose $1,000. You're supposed to make money with energy, not lose money. Here in Europe, we've seen the fate that the radical left tried to impose on America. They tried very hard. Germany now generates 22% less electricity than it did in 2017. And it's not the current chancellor's fault. He's solving the problem. He's going to do a great job. But what they did before he got there, I guess that's why he got there. And electricity prices are 64% higher.
That's because they got rid of the nuclear power and it's going to be all solar, and it just killed the German economy and made the lives of the German people absolutely incredibly hard. Of course, they didn't know, like idiot Noah, who builds an ark when all he could have did was paid more taxes to stop climate change. Screwed the German people, screwing the American people, screwing everybody that's buying into this stupidity we have going on every flippin' day. We're in one of the biggest turnarounds in the U.S. economy. Eggs. Everybody, when's the price of eggs coming down? $12 a dozen here in California a year and a day ago when Joe Biden was in. They're $1.47 or 12 cents a piece instead of $1 a piece. 8 times plus lower, people.
After 12 months back in the White House, our economy is booming, growth is exploding, productivity is surging, investment is soaring, and the United States is in the midst of the fastest and most dramatic economic turnaround in our country's history. Over the past 3 months, core inflation has been just 1.6%. Meanwhile, fourth quarter growth is projected to be 5.4%. The United States.
Real wage growth, first year in the second term of Donald J. Trump, 1.5%. That means you got more purchasing power. 4% down in the 4 years of the Biden reign of terror. All 4 years of the first Trump administration, real wage growth. Yeah, that hasn't happened since Ronald Reagan. George, Poppy Bush, Clinton, W. Bush, Obama, all just like Joe Biden, ran you into the ground, stole money from you, stole your wealth by their policies. I want to get to the Greenland part because Trump announced he has a deal in principle with the NATO secretary, all the NATO people at Davos for a deal for Greenland. Like Newsom say, oh, he said we're going to bomb Greenland and do this. Well, yeah, that was just a negotiating tactic, you fool, something you don't understand. We're going to put together a deal and he said it's not about the minerals or that might be a bonus. That is a strategic, one of the biggest strategic points. If we let Greenland fall to Russia or get into control of Russia or China, we're in a heap of trouble. And that's what Trump said, and that's what he saw. And we're going to get that situation back in control. We need to get back control of the Panama Canal and a lot of the other stupid, idiotic, dumb, ridiculous stuff that we've been doing. This is why, and it came out at the Moreno Valley City Council. First one up is Erlen Gonzalez, newest member of the council. Going to try to be nice. At the Moreno Valley City Council meeting last night in Moreno Valley, California, they're concerned, their big concern is about Greenland. Listen to this.
And briefly, I just want to mention elections matter. Midterm elections I have a timer, 286 days, 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 31 seconds. So that's on November 3rd of 2026. This is exhausting, having this gentleman in our office.
It's exhausting, Erlen, before we get to Greenland. It's exhausting, Erlen. You don't want real wage growth? Yeah, this shows that you're suppressing the people. 4 years. So you want to go back to the Biden reign of terror where people lost 4% of their earning power. Real wage growth was down 4%, which means less purchasing power for average, everyday, lunch pail toting American citizens. And the reign of terror, you're supporting that? That's what you want to go back to, Erlen?
And he is our president, but I hope that, all communities and the various, our citizens and people that vote, hopefully vote a different way this time around. So,
what? Vote back to that? Is that what you're a socialist Democrat? Stupid? Gavin Newsom? Corey Jackson, who funded your campaign? So I look at the 460s. Erlen and baby Jesus Ulysses Cabrera, the mayor, was their main backer. It's what you want? It's a future you see?
286 days can't come any sooner. So everything that's going on with ICE, the continued weaponization of ICE, and Greenland, and it goes on and on and on and on.
Deal with the ICE in Greenland. Today, Trump has announced with NATO leaders agreement in principle to take over Greenland for the strategic protection of the United States and Europe and the world. And he's against that. And Shaylinda, Mayor Baby Jesus, Elena, and everybody of the crew, you want to stop the ICE raids? You want to stop the public stuff? Then get rid of the sanctuary city and state, because ask any cop, every stinking one of them I've asked, cop on the street. Hey, if we got rid of the sanctuary cities, Every one of them, 90% plus, all the stuff you seen with ICE would not be there. They'd be able to walk in the jail with the detainers of that, walk out with them. That's why you don't see them in Naples, Florida, Enid, Oklahoma, Beaumont, Texas, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or anywhere else. That's why you're seeing them in LA, in Minnesota, in Seattle, in New York.
So that's it for tonight, 10:43 p.m. You have it, Mayor. Bring us home.
All right, let's get us home. So you mentioned Greenland. I'm sure we're all aware of that.
Yeah, we are aware of it. And we're aware of we're going to be safer because Donald Trump is president. That you're having a big hissy fit with you and your crew up there. From the center left over there.
Just what yesterday, or the day no, actually yesterday there was a police chief. I think it was somewhere in Minnesota. Spoke up on behalf of his entire police department that one of his own police officers, actually off duty, had a similar encounter like we're seeing all over the news and social media, and had actually a gun pulled out on them. And this is a police officer. Off.
So where's the context of it of that? You're not going to answer, baby Jesus. 640,000 deportations. 170 have been detained longer than they probably should have. Just detained. But you're not asking for, along with your Greenland hissy fit or Trump derangement syndrome, you're not asking for the policy that would eliminate all the, or most all of this angst that you're talking about. Just like this, and we're going to put out the deal to Shaylinda or anybody or Baby Jesus or Erlen, Ed and Elena, Sheriff Chad, I don't care, X-Man, Jose Medina, any of them around here. Free to come in and defend your position. Outright. I mean, it's absolutely beyond ridiculous, incredible, out of control, what we're seeing today. The other issue I want to deal with is Councilwoman Shaylinda Bernard. She said this in reference. Okay, let me set it up. Erica Kirk's going to be at Calvary Church tonight in about an hour, 6:30, or is when this stops. There's going to be other people there. Wife, widow of Charlie Kirk, who was politically assassinated, 3 or 4 months ago. Turning Point USA, big figure in the center right, organizing the youth. Everybody, most everybody, especially listening to this show, knows about Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA and Erica Kirk carrying on that legacy. Shaylinda Bernard had these stunning comments to say at the council, Moreno Valley council meeting from this councilwoman last night.
Or a location you may find them at. I'm going to tell you that nowhere in any religion or anything that I think you should ever be able to racially profile. Also, to my friends that have told me that they are going to be protesting tomorrow outside of Harvest, I'm all here for...
That's where the gathering is tonight at Harvest Church on Arlington Avenue in Riverside, California, right here in the Inland Empire. To all her friends protesting.
For freedom of speech, that's fine. If Erica Kirk wants to do everything but stay at home with her kids the way she keeps telling me to stay at home with my kids.
Anybody that's come across a smarter of half the population, when you see it in that tone and with those facial gestures, you know They are thoroughly pissed off.
That's fine. She can go there and
That's fine. That's the stamp.
make heaven as crowded as they want, but I will not be drinking the Jim Jones Kool-Aid with the rest of those people sitting up in there listening to her and them tomorrow.
She will not be drinking the Jim Jones Kool-Aid to them and the rest of them sitting there. For one, I'm glad in one respect she said it. Now we know exactly where you stand and what you're all about, Shaylinda. We'll play some of the other comments from you, Baby Jesus, and Erlen probably tomorrow. And you may have, again, an Ed Delgado, council member from District 2, running against Corey Jackson for assembly seat coming up here in District 61 or Assembly District 61, said it best. You know, I'm here to talk. When I'm here at council, you know, not that I don't know what's going on in the state of that. We're at the Moreno Valley City Council meeting. We should be dealing with the business of Moreno Valley and what affects Moreno Valley. What does Erica Kirk have to do? That's not Trump or whatever of that. And again, I brought up the economic part. And because that was part of the discussion in non-agenda comments. And again, I too agree with you. Freedom of speech, free political speech, if that's what you want to use your 5 minutes and closing comments representing District 4. Because when you're doing closing comments as City Councilwoman Shaylinda Bernard, you're speaking for the residents of District 4. And this is not one-off. You've been doing this for about, well, the past year and a day since the great Donald J. was sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. On top of that, to attack Erica Kirk for her beliefs, not discussing them. And Shaylinda, please. If you want to have a political discussion about just Trump, Davos, why Noah was an idiot, that he built an ark and didn't pay more taxes to eliminate climate change or whatever, come on in, we'll have that discussion.
1 minute.
Shaylinda. All day long. In the appropriate form here where we can debate it and talk back and forth. And let people decide. Stunning last night, the tone they made of that. As Jesse said, we'll be joining the Mighty Met here in a few seconds. Of that, we'll hopefully have Susan Shelley on. Coming up, we'll get her thoughts on some of this stuff and get her columns of the week and everything like that. Update on Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and all that good noise, as we say. It's something else. It's going to be fun. It's going to be real.
10 seconds.
It's going to be fun, but is it going to be real? We'll find out here in less than 10 seconds.
2 seconds, and Susan's on the line.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met, 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the 4-inch AM band. Join our vast video audience in the UFB Network, Rumble, X, YouTube, Type in iNewsWire Roy Bleckert. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face on that. We covered Gulag, Gavin Newsom getting thrown out of the Davos World Economic Forum conference over his comments, so that, as we said, like Chris Rock said, how to not get your ass kicked by the police in his nice comedy skit he did, probably, 10 years ago. Gavin Newsom, how to get kicked out of the Davos concert if you start ripping all those guys that you're trying to get their support for your run for president. Man, that guy he's something else. The Machete-Man attacking the people in the laundromat over a shirt here in SoCal. And again, what's up with the machete? I think this is like the third one that's been around the area in many that. Like I say, it runs in threes all the time. We covered more of the Davos comments. Trump catching, it looks like he's got a deal on Greenland. Moreno Valley Councilwoman Shailenda's remarks ripping Erica Kirk who's gonna be here in about an hour at the conference at Harvest Church in Riverside, ripping her at the city council meeting. Man, what a deal going on. But as we usually do on a Monday, we have the famed editorial writer, columnist for the Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily Facts. More important to me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to iNewsWire, Roy.
Thank you so much, Roy. Great to be with you.
What do you think of Gavin Newsom? Not that I'm a big Davos World Economic Forum guy, to say the least, but I'm smarting off to all the Davos dudes, telling them they are on their knee pads doing this, and then smarting off at Trump, and he basically gets thrown out of the conference. I mean, they couldn't have done it to a nicer guy, Susan.
You're so right. You know, it just looked so juvenile and so desperate for attention, didn't it? It was very odd how he was saying, you can't appease him and this guy, and just speaking so disrespectfully of the elected American president overseas and lecturing foreign leaders that they are pathetic for not standing up to him. What is he doing? It was so juvenile. When we're talking to NATO allies, when we're talking about international trade, there's a lot at stake, and you just don't go around calling people pathetic in the middle of negotiations. That's just not done. And why he was doing it, my guess is that everything he's doing is trying to get footage for campaign commercials and videos, like the world's biggest influencer kind of thing. He just wants to go out and cause ripples so he can have fights with people so he can put it in his reel for his campaign videos. But it's so inappropriate and it's so embarrassing for California. And he's out there saying that Trump is embarrassing. Really? Trump's the leader of the free world, and Gavin Newsom is embarrassing.
1,000%. I think Scott, you said is he acting juvenile? And I think that stamps what Scott Besant said. And I cracked up because you can't get about a deeper cut than this, at least politically. He said Gavin Newsom understands economics less than Kamala Harris, who's got about a negative 111 IQ on just about everything. I was busting up laughing when I heard that, Susan.
He was very funny. And they were just savaging Newsom. And then there was a statement out of the White House also that just savaged him. And I don't know. Gavin Newsom came to the tarmac when President Trump was coming to talk to fire victims in January. He wasn't invited on the trip to go to the Pacific Palisades fire station and sit at the table and talk to everybody. Newsom was not invited. But he went to the tarmac, and he brought his photographers with him, and he stood on the tarmac in his jeans, all ready to go to see fire damage with the president, all ready to be invited on the helicopter, and he wasn't. So what we saw was Newsom going up to the president and pointing a finger at him for the cameras, and then pleading with him to go on the trip, walking with him to the helicopter. Trump and Melania get on the helicopter. Newsom walks away with his tail between his legs. And to this day, Newsom is using still photos that make him look like he was standing up to the president pointing his finger. I think that's what this trip in Davos was supposed to be, and it was paid for by the California Protocol Foundation, which is paid for by Gavin Newsom's inaugural committee, which was paid for by special interests who were called up and asked to contribute, and it's all in the behested payment reports. And I'll be writing about that because I love the behested payment reports. You can see so much.
Only as you can. I think the other thing, and I do like, Trump said it, he said it a lot, and he even said, hey, I used to get along, and Gavin Newsom, he was a good guy, got along with him, we worked together during COVID, which is another whole story, but that, and he says, I don't know what went wrong, but Scott Besson, and this is, and I appreciate the talk or the saying it, but I think I and most people, a very vast majority, want to see action on this. He mentioned we're coming into California. We're going to look at the waste, fraud, and abuse, which is going to make it. He's going to make the stuff that's going on in California. Gavin Newsom's going to make Tampon Timmy the retard Wallace look like a piker on this. But they got to it's got to be investigation, indictments, incarceration. Get on the stick. Let's get with it. Go for it. That's what I say, Susan Shelley.
I completely agree with you. If they don't put people in prison for this level of fraud with government benefits, if they don't put people in prison, we are never going to see the end of it. It's just going to continue on and on because there's no amount of sanction or warning letter or asking the state to pay a bigger share of the benefits next year. There's no amount of that that's going to stop these crooked politicians from doing this unless somebody goes to prison. And I think they should all go to prison. Everybody who was involved in fleecing these government programs, which taxpayers paid for to take care of people who were out of work or who couldn't work because of COVID or who are unhoused or ill or impoverished or otherwise suffering. The taxpayers are willing to pay for a safety net, and these people are fleecing it. Lock them up.
1,000%. Talking about people that need to be going to prison, that Bill and Hillary Clinton, let's just say this. I mean, the House's committee is taking more steps to indict them or hold them in contempt of Congress of that. They set Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro to prison for not testifying, for ignoring a subpoena to testify against Congress. Bill and Hillary are doing exactly the same thing. So why, if the rule of law has anything and we're going to apply it equally, then Bill and Hillary Clinton should be tried and convicted of perjury, not showing up for and snubbing a congressional subpoena. Susan Shelley.
Well, they certainly would be if they were anybody else. And that's the question. Will the Democrats in the House vote for contempt of Congress? And they might. It doesn't have to go to the Senate. It's contempt of Congress. So there might be enough votes to officially cite Bill and Hillary, or do they refer them to the Justice Department? Or they have a prison cell right there in the Capitol. I think they can send the Capitol Police or the federal marshals to go get them and lock them up right in the building. I don't anticipate that will happen. They always seem to slither out of everything.
That would be so awesome if that happened, if they were locked up in the Capitol prison or where holding cell or something. We'd have to throw a ticker tape parade or party or something if that happened on that. Because the amount of destruction those two have done. We could talk for 87 hours on that. But I want to get to some of your columns, switching gears a little bit on that. One, the Supreme Court could make election night great again. Tell us how, Susan Shelley.
This is pretty exciting. There's two different Supreme Court cases. One was just decided last week, and what it said is that a congressional candidate has standing to sue over a state law that allows ballots to be counted after Election Day. He's Congressman Michael Bost. He's from Illinois, and Illinois has a law that says they will accept late mail ballots 14 days after the polls close, and he's suing over that. And the question was, can a congressman sue? Can a candidate sue Or is a candidate injured in the same way everybody else is? The idea of standing is that you need a particularized injury. It can't be something that affects everyone equally. You can only get into the courts if you personally have had a worse personalized type of injury. And what the majority of the court said is that candidates do have an injury when the laws do not uphold election integrity, which is very significant because now he can go back and he can challenge this Illinois law on the basis that it imperils election integrity. And how many laws in California do that? All of them. So candidates in California now, candidates for federal office, for Congress, can challenge California's law, which allows ballots to be counted 7 days after the polls close. Very interesting. And then there's another case that will be decided by July. This one's called Watson versus Republican National Committee. And this one is about a Mississippi law that allows ballots to be counted 5 days after the polls close. And the Republican National Committee was granted standing because they're a political organization, so they sued, and that case is much more advanced. The Supreme Court said in November that they will hear it. And there again, they could say that the law is unconstitutional and conflicts with federal law because federal law says a one-day election, and you can't have 14 days or 5 days or 6 days or 7 days of opening ballots after the polls close. If they do that, we might have a cleaner election this November.
Let's hope so. I mean, isn't it in didn't they pass it the last time that you didn't even have to have a postmark? If just they wrote the date on the envelope right, that, we'll accept, if it was on election day or before that. I mean, come on. I mean, why not just,
That's the law.
I mean, we're almost wasting our time having elections if that's going to be the case, Susan Shelley.
Well, they've removed all of the safeguards that prevent ballot box stuffing. I mean, you don't need servers in Serbia or Smartmatic or Dominion machines and some complicated scheme. This is old-fashioned ballot box stuffing. The old-fashioned kind where the polls close and the politicians look and they say, well, how many do we need? And then they manufacture the ballots and turn them in. And this is now basically allowed because, as you said, there's a state regulation that says you don't need a postmark. If the voter has dated the envelope, that's enough. Well, how do you know that the voter didn't date the envelope in a way that was not truthful? Oh, well, they signed under penalty of perjury. Did they? A lot of good that's going to do us. So you could basically, you could take these envelopes, you could write the election date on them, you could scribble a signature, you could turn in 20,000 of them in the days after an election, and you could flip a close race. Even a not-so-close race. You have 7 days to do that after you know how many you need and where you need them. So it's just enabling fraud. And you can't prove that there's fraud because literally someone could walk into the registrar of voters with a sack of ballots 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 days after the election. And they could say, I am a bona fide delivery service. Here's my business license that I just started last week. I'm a delivery service. And here are the ballots that I'm going to deliver. And they all have handwritten dates, and the county has to process them. If you call the police will say that's not illegal. How are you supposed to collect evidence of fraud when everything that's fraudulent is illegal, is legalized, rather?
It's stunning. Another update on the Prop 50 case, which the three-judge panel 2-1 upheld the Prop 50 was a racist. They made an appeal to the Supreme Court to stay the decision on that. What do you think? Do you think the Supreme Court is going to stay that and say, and that's what the Republican side is asking for, is to stay it for the 26 elections till Supreme Court can decide on it? What do you think on that?
I think they might prevail in the Supreme Court. And the reason I think that is because it was a 2-1 decision on the federal panel in the Ninth Circuit. And the dissent made the point that the argument here is over whether the intent was racial, which is illegal and unconstitutional under the current case law. If the intent was racial to create one particular Latino majority district, that's illegal. And the map maker, Paul Mitchell, made public statements saying that he was doing that, and then he wouldn't testify. He was granted some kind of legislative immunity. there was some sort of a court ruling that said, well, you have to turn over documents on a rolling production basis, discovery to the plaintiffs in this case, and he didn't. And the Republican Party at the Department of Justice from Washington filed something with the court on a Saturday and said, he's not doing it. He's not turning it over. He never turned it over. He never testified. And the dissenting justice said, well, that should be sufficient for essentially inferring what the truth is here because he won't cooperate. I think you call it an adverse inference. So you can infer that it's against the plaintiffs and that they're right. Now they're going to the Supreme Court with this same issue. The court has been pretty clear on a lot of different cases that they're done with this racial gerrymandering stuff, and this is racial gerrymandering, and they might very well throw it out.
I sure hope so. I mean, if we got any hope left, I hope that's the case. Your other column this week, laws protecting endangered plants are now endangering lives and property. Susan Shelley.
I took a look at some of the lawsuits over the Palisades fire and the Eden Canyon fire, and what it appears to be, particularly in the Palisades, is that the state parks have these regulations based on state law that say these endangered plants can't be disturbed. So you can't bulldoze a fire break to protect the houses because there's too many sensitive plants. And because of this, the Palisades burned. There is another town, San Ramon, in Northern California, where the fire came about this and called on the governor to intervene personally to allow wildfire mitigation on state parks land that's adjacent to homes. And they won't do it. They essentially, the state parks are stopping the wildfire mitigation, making it much more expensive, preventing them from doing even what's allowed just because they run out of money by doing environmental studies first. So for all these reasons, homes are at risk from these laws that protect plants. And where do you get the money to pay off these legal claims when people are suing? Well, it can only come from insurance, ratepayers, or taxpayers. And we're all the same people. So the insurance customers are now paying higher premiums, and the electricity and water customers are paying higher rates, and a lot of it is going to be because of damage awards from something like this. So really, to keep all of us from going bankrupt, we have to cut these plants where they threaten homes. And I'm very sorry. Maybe we could move them to another place, but we have to do something to protect lives and property. We can't just mindlessly enforce these environmental endangered species laws and let everybody die. We can't do that.
I agree with that. The only thing I cringe a little bit is your suggestion that they move them or something, and don't give them any more excuses. To save lives and property, mow the things down. That's how, the Indians did this 1,600 years ago so their teepees didn't get wiped out or farmlands or stuff. For crying out loud, that is the environmentally sound way to manage your infrastructure that you live in. So this stuff doesn't happen. How many communities from Paradise to Altadena to the Palisades and many others in between, how many people got to die, or how many billions or trillions of dollars of property has to be destroyed before we get our heads screwed on straight, Susan?
You're 100% right. Moving the plants is not really very useful, and it would be very slow. So they just have to do what they have to do to clear enough brush so that there's a fire break to protect lives and property, and to protect the livelihoods of everyone else who's going to get the bill for the damages, which is all of us. So we have to do something, and we have to get a grip, and Gavin Newsom is doing nothing of it. He's doing nothing. He's done nothing to force the state parks to be reasonable and rational in how they enforce these laws.
We got a couple minutes left, and we'll take that. And I know you're coming down to crunch time to get the signatures to save Prop 13. Give people another reason or an overview of why they should, if they haven't, why they should sign this petition, why they should get others to sign this petition, because we're coming down to crunch time on that. And I know it's getting critical.
We sure are.
So give them an overview and motivate them a little bit on why they should do this, Susan.
Okay, well, there's just a little less than 1 month left, but you can download the petition and print it at home, or we'll mail it to you at saveprop13.com. And here's what this is about. It's becoming easier to raise your taxes. Even though the state constitution says that special tax increases need a 2/3 vote, so it's not so easy to raise your taxes, the courts are erasing that protection. And they're saying that if special interest groups collect signatures on a petition for a tax increase, it doesn't need a 2/3 vote. That's a special exception for, quote, citizen initiative tax increases. And the result is sales tax increases, parcel taxes on your property, every kind of business tax, hotel tax, utility tax, anything can be proposed by a special interest group and then put on a petition that they wrote themselves to direct all the money to themselves, and they go and pay for signature collectors. They put it on your local ballot, and it's going to sound wonderful. It's going to sound like this is a very small tax that someone else will pay, and it's going to fix everything. And election after election, these are going to stack up. There's another proposal, there's 2 of them, I think, in the city of Los Angeles to raise the sales tax again. It's already 9.75% in the city of LA, and it would go possibly a point higher, 10.75%. This is crazy. And this is going to happen everywhere in the state. Taxes for transit, taxes for everything, because they're all just being run into the ground by bad government management. And the solution can't be a tax increase every time. And yet, that's what we're seeing. So what does this do? This puts the 2/3 vote back, the 2/3 vote requirement back. It closes that loophole, that exception for special interest groups doing initiative petitions to raise your taxes. It closes that. And it also gets rid of these real estate transfer taxes that are sweeping the state, which are like a sales tax on your real estate, and they take your equity when you sell. So then you've got capital gains tax, you'll have the transfer tax, you'll have the commissions and the various escrow charges. You won't get any money at all out of the sale of your house. So transfer taxes are banned in Prop 13. We're putting that ban back in, and we're going to sunset the ones that exist because they shouldn't be there. But the courts have allowed it, and this is a problem. When we get closer to the election, we'll be talking about some of the judges you should not be voting for in some of these elections, because they're making these terrible decisions that hurt taxpayers.
Now tell them why they should join Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Go.
Because the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is fighting for you in the courts, in the legislature, on the ballot. And if you go to hjta.org, hjta.org, you can be a member of this great organization for just $15 a year. And then you'll get notifications of everything we're doing, all of the legislation that's pending. If you need to call your lawmakers and say, what are you thinking? You'll get that information in time to do something that's helpful instead of finding out after the fact what they've done to you. So join HJTA, sign up for the free email alerts, and be a supporter of taxpayers and rational thought in California. HJTA.org.
Thanks for being on, Susan. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you so much, Roy.
You got it. Susan Shelley, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and columnist extraordinaire for the Southern California News Group. Man, we got a lot of interesting stuff. Well, hopefully tomorrow we'll get more. There wasn't all that happened at the Moreno Valley Council meeting last night that was going on. Maybe we'll get more into that. Hopefully we'll have some excerpts or something from Erica Kirk's appearance here in Riverside here in about a half hour or so at the Harvest Church there on Arlington Avenue. And more, that'll be a big event starting up here in half an hour. And we ran through Shaylinda's stunning comments ripping Erica Kirk at the council meeting last night. Strange on a lot of reasons why she did that. But from that standpoint, like I said, I'm glad she did. At least we know where she stands and where her priorities are. Trump announcing with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte They have formed the framework for a future deal with respect to Greenland, and the United States rightfully taking it over because we strategically, for the security of the world, that is a very important piece of real estate, even though it's frozen most of the time. But if we allow China and Russia to take hold of Greenland, which Denmark has no ability to defend or anything of that, we're in a heap of trouble. So, and I think most of Europe is finally realizing that and telling Denmark, hey, you got to lighten up on that. You know, it isn't about what the hell are you getting out of Greenland that you're so real attached to. There's, you know, even, and, you know, it's not about the minerals there, that they're very difficult to get. I mean, you know, you got to drill through 16 miles of ice to get to them. So you would have to be to a point of, or something of where you would, you know, you would have to have a very rich or powerful country, companies to go in there and get them. It's not about that. It's about the strategic military importance of that little piece of real estate. And it needs to be in that. And, you know, again, the Mayor Baby Jesus, Ulysses Cabrera out here in Moreno Valley, and Councilman Erland Gonzalez crying crocodile tears about it. No, the mean Trump. And, you know, the next day comes out and says, hey, you know, this is what it's all about. And the rest of the world, at least the rest of the semi-free world, is joining in hands with the great Donald J. Trump in securing our safe future now and forever, hopefully. Thank goodness we have adults on the scene. That'll do it for today. As we usually say at this time, it's mandatory you're back here in 23 hours live. The best car show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
All right. Have a great night.
You got it.